Well, welcome everybody to the third week of our August online program for the alumni of the Sunshine Coast Health Center. And this month we're talking about finding meaning and purpose in the workplace, which is very important for recovery because, as you know, Viktor Frankl said, addiction is a response to living a life that has very little or no personal meaning. So work being a huge part of anyone's life, it's kind of important that you work somewhere where you can fill you up and make you feel a sense of achievement and that you're doing something to make the world a little better place to live. Now, one of the keys then is, well, what kind of work is this? Well, everybody, this is actually what Viktor Frankl said, everybody actually knows. Like, it's always inside of you. You know, all the fellows here are constantly complaining, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. Well, it's actually inside of them. They just have to pay attention so that it comes out. But a lot of people have started figuring it out. A lot of fellows, actually, as I mentioned last week in our big group, we were talking about work. And a lot of the fellows actually do have this dream job that they're interested in. Now, we should point out not everybody can actually do this. There are some fellows that are like 50 years old, they're going to retire, they're building up a pension. Probably not a good idea to just quit your job and do something else. But for some, one of the fellows is talking about, he's not married, no kids, he's kind of free, he's late 20s, 29. So he's actually got some freedom. Now he owns his own company, he's doing well, he's getting lots of money from the company, but he mentioned that he's kind of bored of the work and he needs a new career. So great. I mean, he's done Rosemary's career testing. He's figured out he has to go what he wants to do. He's now picked out the schools because he needs retraining, and he's being very methodical. Very well done. Very well done. But he's pursuing this dream that he said he had since he was a little kid, right? So that's great. And that's sort of good on him that he's willing to do that. But a lot of people, a lot of the clients, they're scared, right? Because they know to make this change will demand that they give up some things. For example, the fellow's going to school. He's going to give up the paycheck, right? And maybe he'll drive around in this car, right? And so maybe he promised himself a brand new car in a year or two. Well, that one went out the window, right? Because he's got to pay off school, and school's kind of expensive. Or maybe he has to take out a student loan, right? So it's not like they're going to give you a ton of money for student loans, right? So he's going to make some sacrifices. I mentioned to him that probably, according to all the official Bible, the mental health Bibles, probably all students could easily be considered sort of having a mental disorder. Because, I mean, look what they're putting themselves through, right? You pretty much lose your social life. You're going to be doing these things, staying up till the middle of the night studying for exams and writing these essays. You're going to be taking courses. You have no idea what for, right? But you have to, because that's the only way you get the piece of paper. Your professor may not be a very good teacher, but you're stuck, right? Because it is who it is, right? I mean, all of these things that you put yourself through as a student. So he's willing to make that sacrifice for somewhere between 2 and 4 years, which is, it's good. So here's an older fellow, hasn't been in school for a while too, right? He's got to go back to school, he's doing that, but he's willing to do that because he's got his eye on the prize, eye on this goal that he really wants to achieve. Right? So that's a very good plan. You may remember we talked about on the online program this guy by the name of Geoff Campbell. And Geoff Campbell's a very famous fellow and deals officially with mythology, but he's actually a good observer of human nature. He's written like 30 books, well, maybe 20. Any rate, there's a very famous series of television interviews between he and Bill Moyers, who works for the Public Broadcasting Service. And Bill Moyers asks Geoff Campbell, well, Joseph, you're this great genius, you're world famous, you've studied all of this stuff, like, tell us what's the secret of life. And Geoff Campbell says, follow your bliss, right? That's the secret of happiness. the secret of being alive, the secret of meaning and purpose. And this fellow that was in our big group, he was actually talking about following his bliss, right? Because something that he always wanted to do. But so many of the fellows, I mean, they'll actually come up with 87 brilliantly argued excuses about why they shouldn't even take the first step. And when you blow the smoke off it and look at it for what exactly it is, it probably boils down to, look, they're scared, right? Because they know to make this change in their life will demand a big sacrifice and everything else. In fact, one of the fellows making this change, when I was talking about the sacrifices demanding, and he said, hey, well, what about the good stuff? Good, very good point, right? To keep the eye on the prize. So one of the things of finding meaning and purpose in the workplace is if you don't feel filled up and you're capable of changing jobs, because again, not everybody is, right? But if you're capable of changing jobs, then it might be useful exercise to think about this, right? So maybe I'll think about this and, well, no one ever starved getting on a student loan, right? So yeah, maybe I have to take the bus, or maybe I can't get the brand new car, or I'm kind of stuck with my crappy old stereo for a bit. But if you keep the eye on the prize, right, it makes it much more rewarding, and that way you're moving towards your bliss. You're accomplishing things, right? So that's a good lesson there. And for those people who, a very common reason actually for relapse, unfortunately, is people put in place a plan. So a typical plan will be, okay, I'll go back to the oil patch, I'll make all this money, I'll quit in 1 year, and I'll take all this money and I'll put it towards school. And if they actually do that, most of the time things work out really well. The guys who run into trouble are when they go back to the oil patch and they're making all this money, and then they say, oh geez, I like this too much, right? And then they go past their 1 year and their plan goes out the window, and then after a while they maybe get into some kind of routine, they get bored, and then of course all the problems start happening, right? But keeping your eye on the prize is important, but it's fundamentally important to face your fear. Like if you can pull it off and you're not happy with your job and you want a better job, it is a very good thing to think about, well, maybe I should switch. And the fact that you may be making less, maybe the new job you make less money at. But in actual fact, it doesn't really matter, because happiness doesn't depend on how expensive your car is or how big your house is. Happiness is more like, can I get up in the morning and go to work? That's great. Oh, which by the way, probably would not surprise many people to learn that most heart attacks, at least according to the research I've read, happen Monday morning. That gives you some idea of, oh God, I gotta go back to work again. So a lot of people don't have really happy lives at work, right? So this is, but for people in recovery where it's so fundamentally important, you fill your life up, you find some substance in it, you feel like, oh yeah, this is great. Then work becomes a fundamentally important component of your recovery. All right, stuff to think about. And we'll be back next week with the 4th installment of our August program.